Everyone thinks the US dollar became the world's currency because America won World War II. That's the bedtime story version. The real reason? A closed-door deal in 1944 that quietly rigged the global financial system without most countries realizing what they were signing away. It didn't just crown the dollar, it trapped the world inside it. And yes, it gets worse.
Imagine waking up in a world where money barely means anything anymore. Cities are rubble, governments are broke, entire economies are running on fumes and ration cards. It's 1944. World War II is still raging, but everyone already knows how it ends. Europe is financially flatlined. Gold reserves are gone. Currencies are so unstable they might as well be lottery tickets. If your money survives the week, it's considered a good investment. Banks are hanging on by paperwork and prayer. International trade? Basically frozen. Trust between countries? Non-existent. Meanwhile, one country is in a very different position. The United States hasn't just survived the war, it's cashed in on it. While others bombed each other into bankruptcy, America became the world's factory, the world's lender, and quietly, the world's vault. By 1944, the US controls most of the planet's gold. Even economists can see the problem. The global economy needs a reset, a new system, a new referee, and a new kind of money everyone can trust. So 44 countries are summoned to a quiet resort town in New Hampshire to fix the world's finances. Officially, it's about cooperation. Unofficially, it's about who gets to write the rules. And that's when the deal is proposed.
The official story sounds clean, almost heroic. In 1944, world leaders gathered at the Bretton Woods conference with one noble goal: prevent another Great Depression. No more chaotic currencies, no more economic warfare, no more countries devaluing their money into oblivion and dragging everyone else down with them. So they designed a system built on stability. Every major currency would be pegged to the US dollar, and the US dollar pegged to gold at $35 an ounce. Simple, elegant, reassuring. If you were France, Britain, or Japan, this sounded like a lifeline. Instead of trusting broken governments and shaky banks, you could trust the dollar, and by extension, American gold. Trade could flow again, confidence could return, the world could rebuild. To make it all feel official and safe, they created new institutions: the International Monetary Fund to manage stability, the World Bank to help rebuild destroyed nations. On paper, it looked like a global handshake. The US wasn't taking control, it was just offering leadership, just helping, just being responsible. That's the version printed in textbooks, the version taught in universities, the version politicians still reference when they talk about the post-war order. But here's the part that always gets skipped. This system only works if one thing stays true forever. The United States must always have enough gold to back every dollar it prints. And that assumption was already quietly breaking. Because while the world thought it was signing up for stability, it was actually signing up for dependence. And that's where the story starts to get uncomfortable. Because here's the part they never mention. The deal wasn't negotiated between equals. Here's the uncomfortable truth about Bretton Woods. Most countries didn't really have a choice. By 1944, the US held roughly 3/4 of the world's gold. Europe was financially wrecked, its cities destroyed, and its treasuries empty. Britain, once the financial center of the world, was surviving on American loans. France needed dollars just to import food. Everyone else needed US support to rebuild or risk total collapse. So when the United States proposed, let's make the dollar the center of the system, it didn't feel like a negotiation. It felt like gravity. Officially, currencies were pegged to the dollar. In reality, they were chained to it. And here's the clever part. Countries could only exchange dollars for gold through the US government. Not freely, not instantly, only if America allowed it. That meant the dollar wasn't just money, it was a gatekeeping tool. Even inside the conference, some delegates warned this was dangerous. They argued the system gave one country a privilege no one else had, the ability to print the world's reserve currency while everyone else had to earn it.
But those warnings were politely ignored, because saying no meant saying no to Reconstruction money, trade access, and economic survival. So the deal was signed. The world walked away believing it had built a fair system. What it had actually built was a financial hierarchy, with the United States at the top, issuing promises backed by gold and trust. It was like watching someone juggle knives while yelling, "Relax, I've done this before." The problem? The system only worked as long as the knives never slipped.
But the craziest part is still coming, because the moment the dollar became the world's money, America's incentives changed forever.
Once the system was in place, the chain reaction began. At first, it looked like a miracle. Global trade exploded, countries rebuilt, dollars flowed everywhere, through factories, ports, and banks. The world economy was breathing again, and the dollar was the oxygen. But then, the incentives kicked in. Because the US was the only country allowed to print the world's reserve currency, it didn't need to earn dollars the way everyone else did. America could run trade deficits. It could spend more than it made. It could finance wars, welfare programs, and global influence with paper promises, while other nations had to export real goods to get the same dollars. This created a quiet imbalance. Foreign governments started piling up dollars. Gold stayed in US vaults, and America kept printing. Warnings appeared early. Economists pointed out the contradiction. The world needed more dollars to grow, but too many dollars would eventually overwhelm the gold backing them. It was a system designed to stress itself. Greed followed predictably. Politicians loved the flexibility. Markets loved the liquidity. Voters loved the spending. So, denial set in. By the 1960s, the US had printed far more dollars than it could ever redeem in gold. Countries like France noticed and began demanding gold instead of paper. The vaults started emptying. Confidence began cracking. What started as a small imbalance turned into a full-blown pressure fracture in the global system. Some experts still argue this wasn't a crisis in the making. It was a slow-motion robbery wearing a stability costume. Because once trust goes, money follows. And the system was running out of both. This is the moment the system finally cracked. By 1971, foreign governments were lining up, demanding gold for their dollars. The math didn't work anymore, and everyone could see it. If the US honored its promises, the gold would vanish. If it didn't, the entire Bretton Woods system would collapse. So one Sunday night, quietly, the US made a decision that changed global finance forever. President Nixon went on television and announced the dollar would no longer be convertible into gold. Just like that, the deal from 1944 was over. Markets froze, currencies floated, the world held its breath. If money could scream, this is the moment it would have lost its voice. Because overnight, the global financial system went from gold-backed trust to something entirely new. Trust backed by nothing but belief. And everyone was forced to accept it. But here's the detail everyone ignores. That decision in 1971 didn't end the dollar's power, it supercharged it. When the dollar broke free from gold, most people assumed its dominance would fade. Instead, the opposite happened, because now the US could print money without any hard limit, and the world still had to use it. Oil was priced in dollars, global trade was settled in dollars, international debt was written in dollars. If a country wanted to participate in the global economy, it needed access to the same currency America controlled. So the dollar didn't collapse, it expanded. Inflation didn't disappear, it was exported. When the US printed more money, the effects rippled outward through exchange rates, commodity prices, and global debt. Other countries absorbed the shock so America didn't have to feel all of it at home. And this is where it hits you. Asset prices inflated. Cost of living crept upward. Debt became normal. The system trained governments, corporations, and households to rely on cheap money. Boom and bust cycles became a feature, not a bug. Financial crises didn't end, they just got bigger, faster, and more frequent. People think the crisis ended decades ago. It didn't. Your rent, your groceries, your student loans, all of them lived downstream from a deal signed in 1944 and broken in 1971. This isn't ancient history. It's the financial water you're swimming in right now. The Bretton Woods deal didn't fail because of bad math. It failed because it misunderstood human behavior. Finance isn't numbers, it's power, incentives, and temptation dressed in spreadsheets. Give one country the ability to print the world's money, and eventually it will use that power. Not out of evil, but out of convenience, out of politics, out of survival. The dollar didn't become dominant because it was perfect. It became dominant because the world needed stability and accepted dependence in exchange. Every financial crisis since has echoed the same lesson. Greed wins the short game. Trust pays the long price. And if you think this story is insane, wait until you hear what replaced gold. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more cool stuff they don't teach you at school.